Welcome to hell. There is no escape. There is no escape. You are in my control now. Welcome to hell.
Welcome to Hell Team Doom. It's your boy Walterdoom back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, the podcast where your nightmares and reality meet. And your boy is back for another episode. So I'd like to say first off, thank you Team Doom for listening to your boy each time I'm out here. I know I'm not on here like a consistent basis, but whenever I am out here, y'all out here listening to your boy, giving him support and love, and I really do appreciate that. So let's give it up for y'all, Team Doom. You know, second, shout outs to my boy Algorythm-C and Kelly the Wolf for supplying the beats to the show. You guys are the real MVPs with helping this podcast become what it is and what it is possible. Also, if you want to follow your boy Walterdoom, my social medias are Walterdoom on Instagram, Walterdoom1 on Twitter, the Walterdoom on TikTok, Walterdoom on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever else you want to stream me. And lastly, shouts out to Bal for coming on to the show last time. If y'all haven't checked that out, me and Bal had an interesting conversation about just horror in general and everything that he's been working on as of late since he's been on the last episode. So yeah, that man is working real hard. Y'all gotta check out his stuff. Gotta check out Mother Mortis pretty soon. Splatterfest is gonna be happening soon. So if you're trying to enter your own movie, you know, short film, make sure you go to Apotheosis Production on Instagram and find out how to enter into the Splatterfest. So right now, you're probably thinking, what are we getting into today, Team Doom? Or what are we getting into today, Doom? Well, I'll tell you, audience, here's what we're getting into today. So this week, we're going to have a special guest, and he's going to be on first. We're going to talk to our special guest. Next, I am going to have a Thoughts of Doom review, a movie review of the movie Fresh. So yeah, so right now, just sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and start this
What's your favorite scary movie? I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence.
Come. This, bitch!
Let the games begin.
just written his first book called The Town Beyond the Trees, all the way coming from Florida. Let's bring on Ivan Lopez.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Team Doom is happy to hear about you, man, because right now you just published your first book, and I'm pretty sure it's been one heck of a journey. So if you could talk to us about your journey a little bit, let's start off with just like, what got you into writing in the first place?
Well, that's kind of interesting because I couldn't really think about when I got into it because I've always been doing it. as I've been doing it since I was a child. I just write little short stories, as much as a child can do.
Yeah.
And and there were always horror stories, which is I don't know if that's a sign of something, but as an
Usually
adult, I guess it helps me out,
Yeah.
But I always like wrote little scary stories and stuff as a kid, and so I can't really remember when I got into it or how I got into it. I just know that I've always done it, but it's always been the thing that I've used mostly for expression, and it's the thing it's the one thing I've been passionate about for my entire life. It's the one constant,
All right. What did you usually write when you were a kid? Like what kind of like topics?
Like they were just little ghost stories that I did. And like, there was no depth to them or anything. I was not that proficient as a child when it comes to the nuances of storytelling, but I just did it for fun. Little things, guy goes into a house, sees a ghost, gets scared, run away. But, it wasn't those like exact words, but those were the types of things that I used to do. I also remember as a kid I used to doodle a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do it for shit now. I can't draw for a damn. But I don't know how that went to the wayside, but it's gone now. But I once drew this picture that it was an assignment, I think, in elementary school, and I wrote a little story along the same lines of what I just said. Guy goes into a house, gets scared, and I remember using the term "scared the stuffing out of him." Because as a kid, that was poetry to me.
Scared the stuffing right out of them.
Oh yeah, as an elementary school kid, that's the height of literature.
But it definitely is.
Yeah. And I doodled a whole like this guy in a library, and he was like scared of this ghost, and like there's this pile of like yellow goo in front of him, which was the stuffing that got scared out of him. And, and that's like one of my earliest memories of a story that I wrote.
That's pretty awesome. I used to do something like that also. I used to like write a lot of like horror, kind of like really violent stories. Kind of sometimes it scared people. Kind of like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, but
then they grow up to be people like us. So
yeah. But I remember like I used to do the same thing too. I used to write little small stories, short stories. I used to also draw and make like little comic books too. Like it would be like a mixture of like the Simpson type characters mixed with like some type of Street Fighter or Tekken characters. It was like a thing for me. Like as a kid, I always thought like, because I was really like into like video game. Well, I mean, I'm still am into video games, but I was really into like the Simpsons, Street Fighter, and Tekken. I wasn't really much of a Mortal Kombat fan, because I wasn't allowed to play it,
That was me. I was Mortal Kombat kid.
See, you were lucky. My mom was like, you want to get Mortal Kombat? No, you can't play that.
We found ways.
Yeah. You found a way. I couldn't find a way. But yeah, like some of my comic books, they would look like Simpsons characters, but they would kind of like also resemble like fighters from like Street Fighter and everything, or Tekken, and it would just be like little dumb comic books, not really a real story to them. It'll just be like, I'm mad, and they just start fighting.
So then you're not going to create a new Simpsons fighting platform?
Oh no, I wish I could, man. I wish I could.
Just send a few emails poking at Fox and be like, hey, let me do this.
It'll be more like Disney now, because Disney owns damn near everything now.
Yeah. Maybe don't do that.
Oh man, don't cancel me so fast. Don't cancel everything I do.
Yeah. It's one hell of a machine. Don't fuck with that.
Yeah. As a writer, I know you pretty much have probably like some inspiration to like different horror books, probably, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
what are like some of your favorites? Like, what was the some of your biggest inspirations to write like book wise?
So as early, well, a book that got me into reading, let alone horror, um, was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay,
Uh,
I've read that book.
yeah, uh, and for some reason that book just got me as a kid, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is good shit right here. I mean, that's not what I said as a kid, obviously, but
Yeah.
translated into adult terms, this is some good shit right here. So I wanted to create stuff like that. I've always been a creative kid, always been a creative person, and that getting me into reading, getting me into literature, is what sparked my love for writing. And as I kept reading, and as I grew up, I read more horror books, a lot of Stephen King, like everybody does. Um, uh, but then got into like Clive Barker. Hellbound Heart is still a favorite of mine. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, love Hellbound Heart. Love the. It's just it's very it's actually a very interesting piece to me because of the differences between the book and Hellraiser,
Hmm.
despite being made by the same person. Like he adapts his own thing into film, his own book into film, and then like there's still many changes that he
Yeah.
made to it. He didn't ruin the essence of the story whatsoever, which is great. But I love seeing I love comparing books and movies to each other. And that's probably one of the more interesting ones to me. But I love that Clive Barker has such a unique style.
Yeah.
So he's so unique, he's so niche, and you can't find anything like that. You can find things that are Barker-esque, but just nothing that will ever amount to what he's done.
See,
Um,
I need to actually try and read his books
oh man.
because as a kid, I've never been like really, I mean, I could read, but it was like I was never really into reading like books like that because it wasn't really heavily promoted like that in
Mhm.
the house, you know. Um, but just as growing up, I mean, I'm finding out like different things about like different like conditions runs in my family, like dyslexia and all that. I mean, I don't have it
Mhm.
personally. I don't have it, but you know, one of my parents do have it, so it was like probably one of the reasons why reading was never really like promoted. But now it's like I read on my own as an adult.
Mhm.
The I've read like Frankenstein, which is a really good book. I mean, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure you've
great.
read it.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic. I mean, if anybody that's into horror, I feel like literally you should be reading Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, those are like the classes that you
Oh yeah.
have to read those. Those are like the trifecta of a must
Fantastic
read.
starters.
Yes.
Fantastic starters. And great to start with those, because so many things pull from those classics.
Yes.
There are so many modern things pull from that. Same thing with horror films as well. But they pull a lot from those classics, because I mean, really, no idea is original anymore. So it's
Yeah,
really in
and
how you tell a
that is
story, not what
true.
you tell. So everybody pulls from those things. But for people starting out, I mean, as a kid, I also liked the scary stories to tell in the dark series.
Oh yeah.
So like for younger readers, if you're looking to get your kids into horror or something, that's a really good one to start with. Those on the Goosebumps books. But yeah, those classics are great for starting out, and them start branching out from there once you start to in short story collections, actually, which is I'm working on one right now. My next book is a
Nice.
short story collection. But those are really great for beginning horror readers, especially those who don't want to get too deep into it at first.
Hmm.
Because those tiny stories, I mean, those are just tastes of what you can expect from longer stories. And
Yes.
so that's a really good one. You can get it in small doses before you jump into, you know, a longer novellas and novels and what have you. But it's also good for if you have any kind of reading any disabilities that can hinder your reading or slow down your reading. Like for example, like for me, I have ADHD, so it takes me a while to read a book.
Same. I mean, I don't know. I think mine might be undiagnosed, but I do take a while with reading a book.
Yeah, like if I read a book once, I've actually read it about 3 times. So, but that's one of the great ones. That's one of the great reasons to go into short stories first as well. Like I like to. I was gonna start to kind of describe myself as a writer for people like me, because I really like writing short stories. So I want to write stories for people who are like me, who can read in small doses and still feel like they accomplished reading a whole story and not have to worry about always being bombarded by having to read novels. You don't always have to read novels. You can read short story collections, and there may not be enough out there for you. Well, here's another one. That's kind of where I'm going, where I want to go with that. And the question was, starting out. Well, there you go. A little long-winded, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good on that. I kind of want to switch gears about a little bit to like just your book in general, since we are talking about short stories, and I'm pretty sure your book is a short story, right? Or is it like an actual novella? Okay, which is
so it's like, but it's between the short story and the novel.
It's like not really a short story, but it's not really a novel. It's that in between.
They classify that as a novella.
So can you tell us a little bit about your book, The Town Beyond the Trees? Like what it's about, without spoiling anything.
Okay. So it is about a couple that goes out on a road trip, and they meet a man when they're running out of gas. They go to a gas station. They meet this guy and creeps them out, but sends them on the way that they're supposed to be going, and in the middle of the night, and strange things happen when they head out from this gas station, and they are terrorized by something. They don't know what, they don't know why, but it's out there and it's fucking with them a little bit. Why that is, they find out later, but so will you.
Nice. How long did it take to write this book?
Longer than it should have, because it actually started off as a screenplay for a short film.
Okay.
And I wrote it as a screenplay for a short film, and I decided that it probably translated better as a book. As a novella. So so that's what I did. I adapted it into a novella and then published the novella. But the screenplay was written well over 10 years ago. So this story is old. To me, at least. It's old to me.
It's old to you, but probably new to everyone else that's going to start reading it.
Oh yeah. But this story has been in existence for a very long time.
Okay.
But it wasn't until a little over a year ago. It was during the pandemic. Is when I decided to do the adaptation. Crap, it's 2022, isn't it? So it was well over a year ago. Jesus.
I know. It seemed like during that whole pandemic, it was just like 2020
time doesn't exist.
2020 time did not exist, and it just dragged on. 2021 came, it just flew by,
Oh yeah. but yeah, during that time is when I did the adaptation, and I start to question if it was out of boredom during the pandemic or not.
Oh, it probably was.
It's like maybe I'm just gonna go ahead and try this and see what happens. And like, holy shit, this is a much better book than a movie. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's go down that route. And yeah, so.
All right. Well, as we are winding down on our time together, what are some tips that you would give for people who are starting out to write? Like, what tips would you give them?
Oh man, I would say realize that this is your time to. This is your opportunity, not time. This is your opportunity to be unabashedly yourself.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if you don't want to be so unabashed about it, you don't have to be. You can disguise anything that you want behind a character, behind a setting, behind anything. This is your journal to the world without actually having the world know that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be a very liberating thing.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to write whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of what, and on that same token, don't be afraid of what people are going to think about what you wrote. There's an audience for everything.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to read your work. Somebody is going to watch your work, no matter what your medium is. There is an audience for everything. Write what you like. Don't listen to people who say write what you know.
Yeah.
Write what you don't know, research it, and then fix it when you find out what's wrong with it.
Yes.
But that is a very fine line to walk on, though, which I completely understand, because there is a difference between, me writing about and somebody writing about real life experiences that may not be very safe to write when you're not writing from the perspective of experience.
Yeah.
I understand that. That's not what I mean by don't listen to the people who say write what you know.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of discretion with that. But for the most part, you're free to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to express that freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, that is some good advice, because I know for me, like doing this podcast, before I got started, I was always like up in arms about like, oh man, what would people think about my podcast? What would people, get out of it? But for me personally, I'm like, what, fuck it. Like, just do whatever I want to do, talk to whoever I want to talk to, bring people on that want to come on here, talk about their projects. We could like trade ideas and what have you, and see where it goes from there, And I feel like, and this is something that myself personally, I'm trying to rise above. It's like, just stop overthinking, overthinking is like the killer of everything, It's like, it really stops you from trying to explore your true self,
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
you should never overthink things. The second that it comes to your mind, write it down. If you don't want to use it later, you don't have to. That's what editing's for.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, everything you said, I totally agree. Just write whatever you want, write about like things you care about, write what you know, if you want to write about things that you know. But if you don't, challenge yourself, research something. The internet is there. So
yeah. Oh, can I do one more piece of advice?
Yes.
If you can do it, if you can find somebody, or if you can afford it, get an editor.
Oh, that part.
Get an editor that you like, get an editor that you trust. Don't try to self-edit if you can help it.
Okay.
If you self-edit, because you're going to be your own worst critic, Nobody is going to see, you're not going to see your story from the perspective of another person.
Yes.
You're going to make mistakes. You are going to not see the things that don't work for your story, because as a writer, you're going to be like, well, I want to keep everything.
Yeah.
Because I love this story, you know? But some things just ain't going to work, and you need somebody to tell you that.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, it's like you don't want to be totally delusional about what you're creating, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're dreamers. That's what we do.
Mhm.
You know, we dream. The only difference between us and the dreamers who don't write is that we write. Is that we tell everybody what our dreams are. You know, but we need somebody to say, "Whoa." Just whoa. Good dream, but you might want to take it back a little bit.
Yes.
You know, you need people to tell you that. Somebody. So find an editor.
All right. Well, thank you, Ivan, for coming on to the show, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, definitely. So, if you guys are interested in Ivan's book, the book is called The Town Beyond the Trees. Where can I find the book?
Right now it's on Amazon. Right now it's only on Amazon. But I am working on uploading it to barnesandnoble.com soon. So hopefully it'll be available there sooner than later. And once I find more outlets, I'll be updating that on my Instagram page. So if you want to follow me on Instagram so you can get those updates, please do. At Ivan_O_Lopez.
All right. And thanks again for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Reality. Unseen by most. A place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side.
Recently, Hulu just released a movie called Fresh, starring Sebastian Stan and Daisy Edgar Jones. Now, the thing is like, I didn't really know too much about this film. I just knew I was really interested in seeing it. Plus, it's a 2022 movie, so I'm trying to get my 2022 movie list completed. And here's the thing, before I get into this review, you guys, spoilers are going to be in this. So if you have not seen the movie yet, I will suggest, if you do not like spoilers, please, skip ahead. But if not, I mean, we're just going to go ahead and rock on. But the synopsis of this story basically is we're following Daisy's character, Noah, who is just in the dating world. She's in the dating world. She's dating all these different types of men, or going on all these different types of dates that are just total floppers. But she ends up meeting this guy at a grocery store. Comes off as charismatic and what have you. The character is played by, of course, Sebastian Stan, which is Tommy Lee on the Pam and Tommy show, if y'all ever watched that on Hulu. She meets this guy. They go out on a date. Pretty normal, you know, fuck on the first date. Because that's pretty standard these days. She goes on a date with him, goes out, they leave to go to like this little vacation together and what have you. And the thing that happens is that he ends up drugging her, and she ends up being like chained in like this little basement area of his house. So the twist of this whole thing is that Sebastian Stan's character, who goes by the name of Steve, basically his job is basically kidnapping women and harvesting their organs for the black market. Basically, throughout this whole movie, you're pretty much seeing the journey of Noah trying to escape this man as much as possible, or trying to find a way to escape him. I'm not gonna give you a play-by-play of this movie because I feel like everyone should watch it. If you watched it already, I'm not gonna go over a play-by-play. But if you haven't watched it, I definitely suggest you go ahead and watch it. Now, the thing is that let me go by like a couple of things. So, a couple of positives and a couple of negatives. So, first of all, let's start with the positives of what this film was. I gotta say, Sebastian Stan, this motherfucker killed it. I'm sorry, I was reading an article on Bloody Disgusting, and they were kind of like comparing his character to Christian Bale's character in American Psycho. And in a way, it kind of is like the same character. You know, you get this affluent white male who is having this strange addiction, and his addiction is just being overpowering women and everyone else like that, you know, and the life being manipulative. You know, and they have very couple of similarities, but they're not really the same character. So to say like this movie is something like American Psycho, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say like there are a few traits that are very Patrick Bateman in this Steve guy. So, but I got to say, Sebastian Stan, you killed that motherfucker. You killed this motherfucking role. I swear, like, each time I was looking at him, all I could think about was, why didn't they get this guy to be Ted Bundy? When they did that Zac Efron movie, I really did feel like Sebastian Stan should have been Ted Bundy. I mean, the guy kind of almost looks like Ted Bundy to me, you know, so definitely his role in this film was very good because it's like the thing that made his character interesting is that he was charming, but he was sadistic at the same time. You know, at one moment, he's just telling you what he thinks about you, how beautiful you look and everything like that. But then afterwards, he will later cut your ass off. This is something that really did happen. He'll cut your ass off just because you tried to escape him. So I gotta say, this character is very sadistic in every way. And it's funny because it's like, not really funny, but it's kind of weird because the movie kind of almost makes you want to like fall in love with the guy and kind of like want to actually hang out with his character and all that, knowing that he's like a homicidal cannibal. So it's like, you kind of like want to hang out with him, but you kind of don't in a way. But, at least for me, it felt like the movie was kind of making me want to feel that way. Kind of like, oh man, this guy is so fun to be around, you know? Like, because they do kind of dress him up as a fun guy, even though it's in the worst way possible. This guy is literally like dancing in his fucking kitchen while he's chopping off a woman's fucking leg and everything like that. But you get like the 80s music that's playing in the background and you're just like, damn, I kind of want to groove to this shit. But at the same time, I feel like this is something I shouldn't be grooving to. I mean, but the movie does kind of like give you so many misleading feelings because the thing is like when watching the movie for the first time, it felt like such a rom-com with all like the blurry backgrounds, the close-up and the dreaminess of like the characters, you know, when they gave a close-up shot of them. I really did like the fact that like in the first 30 minutes before I turned that shit off, they actually turned the tables on me. And then that's when shit really was like fucking lit. I can't help but feel that way. But yeah, it was definitely like, it felt like a rom-com for those who are probably going to watch it for the first time, but you have to be patient. Like after that first 30 minutes hit, shit hits the fan. But right now, let's go ahead and explore some negatives. Here's a couple of negatives that I really had a problem with the film. One is the lack of backstory and motivation for Noah. So the thing is, like I mentioned before, in the plot of the story, we're following Noah, who is looking for love looking for a relationship with somebody. The thing is like, and here's what I had a problem with. We don't really clearly know her own motivation on why she's trying to look for love. It's not really mentioned on what type of relationship she had before she went into the dating world. It's not really mentioned like her insecurities that she probably has for whoever she used to date. It just comes off as just more so like, I'm just doing this just to be doing it. And it's kind of understandable that, do we really actually need a backstory? But I felt like we did need a backstory because it kind of helps us understand more so on why she was more intrigued with Sebastian Stan's character than just besides him being a charismatic guy at a grocery store. I feel like it was lacking that depth because it's like there's no story for her before. The only story that we know about her is that she's friends with Molly, and who knows how long her and Molly have been friends, and I feel like, yeah, maybe I'm asking for maybe a little bit too much, but it kind of helps you get like a good backstory of like, okay, well, this is why he's doing it, Like, think about the movie The Babadook. Maybe not the best example, but it is like a sense of motivation or a sense of like understanding on what is happening with the characters. Amalia's husband dies in a car crash while she's pregnant with her son. And because of that night, she has this total grief and utter resentment towards her son. Now, we could kind of understand that throughout the film because it gives us a story. We get that she was married to him or was with him for a very long time, hence why they were having a child together. And it just kind of flows onto the story and builds on the depth of like, okay, the reason why she's so mad at the kid all the time is because she feels like it was his fault that the husband died in the first place, or the reason why she feels so tired all the time is because the kid is keeping her up at night. She's overworked and is literally like no one's really there to support her and what have you. So, like I said, it gives the characters a bit more depth to kind of understand like, okay, this is what happened. I could, like, if they gave Noah like a character depth of like, okay, she was in this relationship with this guy for like 5-7 years, because I feel like the character Noah, she's supposed to be like at least between the age of like 25 to like 28 in the story. So she was with this guy for like 5 to 7 years, which I feel like is very appropriate, probably somebody she was with in college. And then like what he ended up doing was he cheated on her with like a roommate, former friend, family member, whatever kind of fucked up decision they want him to do. They could go ahead and do that, and there's probably like little things that they could throw out, like maybe he said something to her like, oh, you'll never find anybody better than me, or maybe he gave her like a pet name that's like a trigger and what have you, and that kind of like gives the character a little bit more emotional depth, at least for me. For me, I just felt like the character herself just didn't have like really good taste in men. And that's literally what the movie literally presented to me. Even though Steve was a charismatic guy, he was married and he was a bit of a serial killer. So to me, it just said like from the two men, because we do see her in the beginning of the movie, she does go on this date with this hipster type guy who has a problem with women wearing sweatpants and jeans on a date instead of dresses. But this motherfucker is wearing a fucking scarf. Like, my dude, why you wearing a scarf? But yeah, I can understand if they gave her more of a depth of like, maybe there was stuff that happened, but all I saw was just a string of bad men in her life. Another thing that I found that was a negative for me was the movies, in a way, didn't really commit that strongly to making this a horror movie in a way. I mean, I felt like it was too many characters being saved or being kept on film for a long time. So like, for example, like Molly, which is Noah's friend. Eventually, Molly goes out and searches for Noah. In the end, like, Molly ends up still living, but we don't know what type of injury she sustained from Steve. I don't know. She was there. He took her into the emergency table or the surgery table, operating table, and he did something to her, but we don't know what it was. We know what he did to Noah. He cut her ass, and we know what he did to this other prisoner named Penny, played by Andrea Bang. We know he took her leg, but we don't know what he did with Molly. And I feel like the writers of this film didn't know what they want. They didn't know what they want happened to Molly either. So for me, I just felt like they could have went a little more hardcore. I get like this movie is supposed to be more like a romantic comedy, but in a horror type version of this. But I felt like for this movie, they could have took Molly's character, when she got captured by Steve and his wife, who is also in on what he does for his business, because that's his business, So it's the way he gets food on the table. What they could have did was, when Molly was caught, I think he should have went all in and just killed her. Honestly. Now I get we don't want to see like another black person sacrificed on film in a horror movie, but I feel like it would have been necessary. It would have made sense in a story type sense to me. And especially for Steve's character arc, for someone who's trying to cover up the tracks of him and this illegal business. So I felt like for that, they could have really like went all in. He could have killed her and then served her to Noah when she was trying to pretend to like Steve and know all about his interesting diet, I should say. So I feel like they could have really did something with that story and made it a lot darker and maybe a bit more like exciting to kind of see that character Noah kind of rise above, because it's like, oh my God, you took the one person that I think is family. If you guys want to check out this film, definitely check it out. But who should watch this type of film? I feel like it's for people who want to have date nights, people who aren't really like super major horror people, like, that are hardcore like that, for people that don't want to watch too many gory films or just like see gore in general on film, because this movie is not really heavy on the gore. It's more psychological than anything, like, even though Steve has a girl's leg cut off, you don't actually get to see the leg cut off. I honestly, I would have loved to see that. That would have been exciting. It would have been like Saw 2.0, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's like, if you're into like just like little silly cute films like this is something that you use. Like, this is a movie that you watch with your significant other or your partner or whoever you're with, maybe your fuck buddy, I don't know. But I am gonna go ahead and take another break, and when I come back, we're gonna have the slasher corner. So be right back. Alright, we are now here for the Slasher Corner. And we're doing things a little bit different now. So instead of me suggesting you guys a must-watch horror slasher corner movie of the week, I'm giving it to y'all now. I want y'all to have a chance, voice your opinion, voice a movie that you want to watch, or have everybody want to watch, you know? So the first one is suggested on Instagram by @the Tyrone. And Tyrone suggested Dreamhouse, starring Daniel Craig, Rachel Weisz, and Naomi Watts. So the synopsis of this movie: soon after moving into their seemingly idyllic new home, a family learns of a brutal crime committed against former residents of the dwelling. So yeah, this one sounds very interesting. So you guys go ahead and check that movie out. Movie again is Dreamhouse. So thank you, Evil Tyrone, for that suggestion. Other than that, we're about to be out right now, you know? If you guys want to suggest a must-watch slasher corner movie of the week, it doesn't matter if it's a slasher or not, please suggest it on Instagram. I am making a post each week. I am asking everyone, yo, what movie do you want to suggest on stream? So that's what we're doing. Other than that, we are out. Thank you again, Team Doom, for checking out the show. Also, but if you're listening to this on YouTube, if you want to suggest a film, go ahead and put it in the comment section. I will definitely, I will definitely suggest your film if it's a good one. But we are definitely out right now. So thank you again, Team Doom, for joining the show. Thanks again, Algorythm-C and Callie the Wolf, for supplying the beats. If you guys want to follow me again, those social medias are Walterdoom on Instagram, Walterdoom1 on Twitter, The Walterdoom on TikTok, and Walterdoom everywhere else streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere else that's involved streaming. So once again, this has been another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. It's your boy Walterdoom signing out. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Stay diabolical, people. Peace.